Hello, welcome to the Learning Curve. I'm Marjorie Began. I'm very happy to have as my return guest Teresa Murphy, Superintendent of the Mansfield Schools. Welcome back, Teresa.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
You know, you are well into your first year as head administrator of Mansfield Schools. How are you developing your role as superintendent?
I am well into the first year. I'm actually into the last quarter of my first year. It's been such an enjoyable year. I love my job. I've been developing by utilizing the entry plan that I had proposed to our school committee last fall, in that I have been working to look at our school district with a different perspective than I did as an assistant principal, as a principal, and as assistant superintendent in town. And so I've listened to a lot of people. I've attended meetings such as our PAC meetings. I have gone to a lot of our student events, and in doing so, I got to meet with a lot of parents. I have held meetings after school so that I could talk with our school staff in each of the buildings. And I've had the opportunity to really start to see parts of the school system that I hadn't looked at before. I also had a unique opportunity because as a new leader here in Mansfield, I was privileged to be able to hire a new team. As you know, our former finance and operations director had retired, and I was able to hire Ed Donahue in that role. Our previous human resources person had moved on to a different position, and we've been able to hire Jocelyn Lemaire. Taking my place as assistant superintendent is Michael Connolly, and I was able to hire a high school principal, Mary Watkins. We were also able to hire a new facilities director because our previous had retired. His name is Matt Jacques. And so together with Bernadette Conroy, our special ed director, and the other principals, I have been able to build a very strong leadership team. And that has helped me to develop as not just as a superintendent, but as a leader and a team builder. I learned a lot about those different departments as I was going through the search process to finalize who we hired for each of those positions. And so all of that helped me to perform what we call a superintendent's entry plan. Last week, I presented to the school committee a report of my findings, and the findings had to do with the instructional core, because as superintendent, that is my primary job, is being the instructional leader of the school district. I found that what I learned in both the challenges that we face as a district, but also the strengths that we show as a district, that they really came under 4 themes. And the first one being teaching and learning in the Mansfield Public Schools. That is our business. The second theme is social emotional learning. And when we talk about social emotional learning in schools, we talk about how we are helping our students develop as good, strong citizens. It is the character building that we are a part of, partnering with their families to build character and strong, civic-minded individuals. It is helping students who are struggling with anxiety and other societal issues, helping them develop in their social emotional learning. And so social emotional learning was the second theme that I have found we have strengths and we have some challenges. The third is the family and the community partnerships that we as a school district foster. And then finally, the fourth theme that I studied as we looked at instructional core is the resource allocation. How we are, as you know, beneficial in that our community supports our schools. And so how are we using our resources wisely? And as we talked about resources, a lot of people think about money. It's not the only resource. What I learned more than the funding is time. I heard parents talk about how busy their lives are, and yet they still find time to participate as volunteers in our schools. I see the students and how they are managing their time with doing well in their classes, but also participating in extracurricular and athletics. and also doing service projects. And particularly our teachers, they are struggling with finding the time to be able to do all that is on their plate to be able to support our students. So as a superintendent, I feel I've been developing by participating in those activities and just doing the work of the district.
And, really learning about it instead of saying, okay, I'm coming in and I want this, this, and this done.
Correct.
It's like, who do I have? What are my resources, financial as well as personal, and bringing those all together, and forming something that is uniquely yours.
Correct. And being able to move us forward. Now that I have those findings, I need to decide what the next step for me is to decide working with my leadership team and taking into consideration thoughts and views of the families and our teachers, look at what our goals as a district will be. It's interesting, after I did the presentation at school committee last week, one of the school committee members said that the entry plan is really almost a state of the union, a state of the schools presentation, because I was able to see, as I said, the strengths, but challenges that we face. And they may not have been apparent to me, both sides, as in my previous roles, but looking at the school district as a whole, it was, I don't think I found many surprises, but it was just eye-opening to be able to experience that and to be able to have that opportunity to listen to all stakeholders in our school community.
And you're mentioning working with the school committee. That brings me to my next question is, how do you work with them?
That's a great question. As you know, school committee, the committee itself is my boss. They hire me. I think that we have a great relationship. I have found that we work well together. There's always a chair of the school committee, and this year it is Kira O'Neill. Kira and I talk probably daily, just updating on things that are happening in the district, information that she should know. She will share with the other committee members. Frequently, I email, I send information to the committee members. We call, we talk. It's been, for me, a really positive relationship. I find that the members are supportive. They ask difficult questions so that they expect me to look deeper and to ask deeper questions and to be able to get answers for them. When I first came on board, Kira O'Neill arranged with the Massachusetts Association of School Committees to do some workshops for us as a team. So it included the school committee, me, our assistant superintendent of teaching and learning, which is Mike Conley, and of finance, Ed Donahue. The workshops were public so that there were people could attend, but we had a trainer who came in and helped us with how we communicate, what the laws are so that we're always in compliance with Massachusetts state regulations in terms of communication, open meeting law, what we can work on in executive session, what a school committee would expect of its superintendent. We also had a workshop on how a school committee evaluates the progress of a superintendent, and we have been following the state evaluation model for superintendents under the guidance of the consultant. So that was very helpful. I find that in terms of the relationship and working with the committee, it's not always the entire committee that I work with at any one time. And what I'm getting to, I'm not saying it very clearly, but what I'm trying to get to is the fact that the school committee assigns members onto separate subcommittees. So for example, we have what's called the policy subcommittee, and that's comprised of the vice chair, Lynn Kavicki, and Lauren Scher. And they will meet with me or my team members on revising policy And so we've been able to work through many of the policies that it's a natural occurrence to take a look at a district's policies and be able to see what changes need to be made, revisions that need to be made. And so that subcommittee works with me on some of the policies. They've worked on some financial policies with Ed Donahue. They've worked on some personnel policies this year with Jocelyn Lemaire. So we have a close working relationship in that it's not just at the Tuesday night committee meetings. Yeah. We also have a facilities subcommittee, and that's new. Ed Donahue brought that to Mansfield Public Schools from his previous district. And that committee is comprised of Lynn Kavicki and Jen Walsh. And they also serve on the budget subcommittee. And so again, we meet for that facilities committee. Ed Donahue, Matt Jacques, our facilities director, and Jen and Lynn work together on some issues related to facilities. This year we've taken a look at some of our fees that we charge for different services in the district, one of those being some of the facilities fees that we charge. And so that's the type of work that we do on a smaller basis, not as public, so to speak, although the meetings are posted and they are working sessions. So it's been, for me, a very positive relationship. They're all very different. The 5 members think differently, they have different opinions, and they are always willing to offer me their opinion. I consult with them frequently, and I'm really pleased that we have such an easygoing working relationship.
It seems very dynamic.
It is.
Because many people think, okay, it's just that Tuesday night.
Yes, that's right.
And that's all that goes on. But to know that all of this is continuing behind the scenes, and that things are not static.
Correct.
That they're moving because a school system is almost a living entity.
It is.
It's evolving all the time, and you need to keep up with it.
Absolutely. So, for example, I think that the 5 members of our committee are very approachable, and they're very much out in public because they all have students in our school district. So they are out and they meet with parents frequently, and people will always reach out to them with questions. And so I do try to stay on top of communicating information. For example, if an aid car, ambulance, has had to report to one of the schools for a reason, we always inform the chair, who then lets the committee members know, because you can be sure that there is a parent driving by that school and is immediately calling one of our members saying, okay, why is there an ambulance at the school? What's going on? Well, they're not going to give details, but they want to be in the know, so they know everything's as okay as it can be when there's an ambulance there, but there's nothing that, other than the family of the student involved, needs to be in the loop. So they're I think that the idea is it's not static. There's something going on every day, and they're kept in the loop.
Again, you just kind of led into a parent worrying about something going on. Today, there's so many parents that are worried about children's safety in the schools.
Yes.
Would you like to talk about what you are doing to assure parents that their children are safe in Mansfield?
As I always tell parents, I'm not a parent myself, but I have extended family members who are in our schools, and I feel that they are in a safe place. I think that no one can guarantee anything in life, unfortunately. But when we send our students off to school, I feel that they're in a caring environment. Some of the things that we are doing, we have a school resource officer in our schools, Detective Ken Wright. He is such an asset to our district. He's an integral member of our school community. As a matter of fact, I was at a school safety conference with Detective Wright yesterday, and he was awarded an Exceptional Service Award by the Massachusetts Juvenile Police Officers Association for his work as a school resource officer. So I look at that as not only we are extremely proud of Kenny, but it's not only Kenny. I also look at that as a feather in the cap of the schools, but I look at it as a feather in the cap of the Mansfield Police Department and Chief Sellon, who made it a point when he became police chief in Mansfield to make certain that there was a school resource officer in our schools, which had not been the case for many years. In addition to the police chief, the shift during the day, they make walkthroughs through our schools. So it's not unusual. It's a pretty typical daily occurrence that children and teachers see police officers walking through the schools, friendly. The kids love to see them. They're building relationships with our students. And safety is about that. It's about building relationships. It's about being able to make sure someone knows who they can go to if there's a worry or a concern. I think that has been a huge support to our schools. Behind the scenes, the police chief, our fire chief, and I work together with our deputies on planning for, the tragic events that we've seen in other places.
Right.
We work on, hopefully it'll never happen, but if it did, then we feel confident that we would be able to take care of the students, move them to a safe location, be able to keep parents informed. You know, the fact that we have a campus setting, it's a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because we can, our students can go from school to school, whether they go over for a holiday concert to the high school, or we have students who work in the Little Hornets daycare. We have students who work in our classrooms. It's a blessing. But in terms of public safety, it's fearful that all of our students in Mansfield are right there in such a small area. We have demonstrated that we can successfully evacuate students on a school-by-school basis. We have plans that if we needed to evacuate the district, we know where we would be going. We have those plans in place. We worked on a lot this year. One of my goals was that we work on the piece of evacuation known as reunification. So from the time if we had to evacuate the district, students would leave the school, go to our meeting point. We know how we will communicate to parents as to where to go. And then I took some of my most organized, efficient employees, office assistants and nurses, who sat down and thought through what it would be like for parents to come to a place where we have 4,000 students and be able to reunify with them. So we have that was a piece of the puzzle that we worked on this year. I think that there are always improvements that we can make, whether it be in our door security, with cameras. There are different areas that we are working on improving. The chiefs and I sat down a couple of months ago and we looked at our plans for what we will be proposing for capital improvement projects for the fall as related to school security. So they are ongoing conversations. We are on the phone with each other more than weekly, almost daily. And we can always improve, but I feel that we have people who care about our students, and I feel the children feel well cared for. The police department is a terrific partner. They have trained our staff in the 4 L's, which some of our community members may have also participated in that training. It is what to do in the event of an armed intruder. And the 4 L's stand for locate, lock down, leave, and live. And the police department does, I think, pretty much monthly trainings for the community. Very well attended. They fill up very quickly. And we were able to, having the police as our trainers, trained all of our staff this year. The police department is now working on curriculum so that we can move forward next year into doing some training with our students. So in terms of our teachers, we had multi-hour training. Our students will be less training, but again, students take their guidance from their teachers. But we want teachers, our staff, our students to feel empowered so that if something that we certainly are never want to happens, then we feel we will be more prepared.
Because, as you said, we can never be totally,
No.
but we can work as diligently as possible towards that goal.
Definitely.
And having 4,000 students in one place is daunting. It is. But as you said, working with the police department, working with the fire department, and going over scenarios, many, many different scenarios, and knowing the two of those chiefs, I'm sure they have come up with most anything
They
that
absolutely
they could.
have. They have done thorough assessments of the schools to see what we need to do to improve. In terms of the fire department, we have been, students from kindergarten through grade 6 have an annual curriculum in fire safety that firefighters come in and train our students every year. We've had a number of young heroes who were trained by our fire department over so many years, and that has been very successful. And then there's other pieces. I think right now, unfortunately, the school shootings have been in the news. The police chief said last night that 19 years ago when the first happened, and they said never again, and yet we still see it. It's on people's minds. And yet when we think of school safety, it's more than that. It is, for example, last week we held the opioid information evening, national crisis, local impact. The Rotary Club, a good partner to the schools and the police and the fire, hosted that. And the safety and security of students through that was, an effort for us to help to improve safety. I think there's many areas that we can work on with school safety. I know that most of our teachers and administrators would say if we could eliminate the student cell phones at young ages, then that would improve safety. I mean, certainly the phones bring a lot of benefits to the table, but for children under the age of 13, they don't have the maturity and the responsibility to be able to be accessing some of the apps that they're using right now.
Right.
So when I was at the safety conference yesterday, that was very much a topic of conversation.
And you have that whole area of bullying,
Yes.
which becomes such a serious thing at a young age.
Yes.
Where before you thought of it as much older, but now it's in grade school. And being vigilant, parents, teachers being vigilant, watching particular children that may be at risk.
Yes.
That's a whole different area.
And our school community has supported and allowed us to be able to add adjustment counselors, school psychologists, and guidance counselors to our staff over the past 10 years. And they are individuals, they are professionals who are able to perform risk assessments on children at risk. They are able to provide the guidance and the counseling that children need. And it's just another layer that supports the whole notion of us promoting school safety.
Yeah, because safety comes on many different
Yes, it
levels.
does. It does.
Not just the one.
And I would like to mention that that the school shootings that we've seen are horrific and have been on not just adult minds, but also student minds. And recently, as part of a national event, some of our students at the high school organized a walkout. And it was not a school-sponsored walkout. I mean, I guess by the very nature of being a student walkout, it wouldn't be. But some of the student leaders at the high school had informed Mrs. Watkins, their principal, that they were going to be participating in the national walkout. And it was for them an opportunity to honor the individuals who lost their lives in Parkland, Florida. And although it was a small turnout, it was quite inspiring to see the entire student body, because it occurred at 10 o'clock, which was the anniversary of or had meant to be the anniversary of the time of the attack. And about 200 students of our 1,300 walked out of the school, and they had a plan in place. They planned to walk out, be gone for 17 minutes, and then one for each of the victims. And during that time, they read the names of the victims, and they also, a couple of students had some prepared speeches. And so the 200 students left the building respectfully. Certainly, the fact that we had, as administrators, there was a full contingent outside making sure everyone was safe. Police department had school resource officer and others there to make sure everyone was safe. But the students who left were respectful. The 1,100 students who remained in their classrooms were respectful of those who chose to leave. And at the end of the 17 minutes, the students returned to their class. What's really amazing is the fact that dismissal was 10 minutes later, and yet they returned to class as was expected. And I think there's much to be said for our Mansfield students, who they are, that they meet expectations. That wasn't an expectation of adults. They were expectations that students had set, and their peers complied and met them. So it was, I think that's indicative of the quality and the character of students that Mansfield parents are raising.
Which leads me into my last question. I know there are many things about the school system that you are very pleased with.
Absolutely.
And I'd love you to just maybe mention some of them.
Yes, I'd love to. We are still in our first year of full-day kindergarten that is free for all Mansfield families. And it has been absolutely amazing that our community was able to support that when we are surrounded by other towns that have not met that goal yet. So to be able to offer free full-day kindergarten for all students is quite an accomplishment. And we have not gotten over the excitement that that has given us. So that's been wonderful. At the middle school this year, they are ending their year of a lot of change. They've reduced a team at each grade because of the declining enrollments that we've seen in Mansfield. But they also used that opportunity to create a better schedule for themselves and some better programming. And so they're ending their first year and now looking for feedback from teachers and parents and students about the new master schedule that they have in place this year, the new courses that they were able to add for students this year. We really were able to expand those opportunities. So that's been exciting for us this year. Our winter sports, as did our fall sports, went very deep into their seasons, into playoff seasons. But we are certainly very proud of the boys' basketball. They won the state Division I title. That was an amazing experience. I was standing courtside, which is kind of fun even to say, but I was standing on the court in the Boston Garden, and I said to Mary Watkins, Mary, some principals go their entire careers without having their students go to a state championship. I said, you're getting it your first year. And she looked at me and she said, you are too, Teresa. And I'm like, you're right. So, that was exciting. It was fun. Our girls' cheerleading team allowed me to ride the buses with them when we went out to Springfield and we went to Boston. And that was really a fun event for me to be able to experience it at that level. So that's been great. I'm excited for having a new town manager who is, I feel, going to lead our community in really just great places. Kevin Dumas is a great partner to our schools. We meet on a frequent basis and we can pop into each other's office as needed. He is currently doing a tour of the schools with me. We've been to 2 of the schools. We're going to Rolling Green on Monday, and I'm excited about the direction that Mr. Dumas is bringing us in. I'm excited about our future. You know, we have got wonderful students. I just shared one story with you. They are interested in so much. They are achieving at high levels in their academics. They are also achieving in their extracurriculars, their sports. They also take on service projects. We have new clubs that have started this year at the high school, and I think they're indicative of who our students are. Safe Bay and the Game Changer are 2 clubs that deal with helping students learn more about and avoid teen dating violence. We have started the Best Buddies program, which is for our students with disabilities. We have Unified Track, which is a spring sport. So there's so many opportunities that we've developed for kids and that kids have developed for themselves. Our teachers are, I think, among the hardest working teachers in the state, if not the nation. Our staff, everyone is supportive of always trying to do what's best for students. And certainly our family and business community is supportive. So all of those packed together, it really makes for an exciting future, and it really makes me love my job.
That's wonderful to hear. Not everybody can go to their job saying, I love this job.
Well, I'll tell you, in March with some of the weather and the snow or the not snow, there were a couple days that weren't quite as much fun, but it's, where else can you work with kids and teachers and have strong support from the community?
Sounds like you are excited about being superintendent.
I am.
And we can certainly see it, and I think it filters through the whole school system.
Thank you.
You know,
Thank you.
And so I hope you come back periodically and talk to us and update us on what's going on in the school system, and we'll always be happy to have you.
Thank you, Margie. I appreciate the invitation. I appreciate that we were able to talk today.
Excellent. And I hope you will join us again next time on The Learning Curve.